Hey guys, it's Miss Hardy. I wanted to get on and make some videos for you guys to continue our American Revolution unit. Now, I will say there is some construction going on down the street. Apparently one of my neighbor's dogs is barking, so I apologize if you hear any background noise. My husband's working in the other room from his computer, so he might be talking, but you know what? We are just gonna do this thing, okay? I really miss y'all, and I love y'all so much. So when we left off together, the last thing that we did in ELA was we studied Paul Revere. If y'all remember, we read "And Then What Happened, Paul Revere." Remember his big head on the cover? And it was a biography about his life and all his kids and all his jobs, how he was a dentist, and what else was he? Oh, he rang the church bells. He fought in the French and Indian War. Well, he tried to fight, but he ended up being in the wrong place and was bored all summer, right? And then it went on to talk about how he was a part of the Sons of Liberty and participated in the Boston Tea Party, all leading up to his famous midnight ride. And then we read a poem by Henry Longfellow, Paul Revere's Ride, a super famous poem. It was super long. That was actually the last thing that we did the last time I saw y'all. We annotated. Remember, that means to break it down and take notes. We annotated that long poem. And then the third passage or source that we read about Paul Revere is from the book Liberty, How the Revolutionary War Began. And there's 2 pages about him. It's called "One If by Land, Two If by Sea." And we read this in class, but just to refresh your memory, I'm going to reread it on this video. And I want you guys to then take the practice cold read task. And it's actually a quiz about this book, okay? And the poem on Paul Revere as well. So I wanted to read it so you're familiar with it. And don't stress, the quiz is not for a grade. However, I will be able to see your score. And so please do your best because make me proud. That's all I'm going to say. Just make me proud, okay? So do your best. But again, it's not a grade, so you don't need to stress out. Okay, so I'm going to start reading. This is "One If by Land, Two If by Sea." One day, 2 young men in old brown suits with red handkerchiefs tied around their necks strolled out of Boston. They kicked at stones, whistled, and tried to look innocent, but almost everyone they met recognized them for what they were: British spies. General Gage, and he was the general of the British Army, okay, the Redcoat Army, working for King George. General Gage had ordered spies to scout the countryside toward Lexington and Concord. He thought the colonists had guns and ammunition hidden in the area, and he also suspected that 2 important leaders of the Sons of Liberty, Samuel Adams and John Hancock, were hiding nearby. It would be a great blow to the colonist cause, the Patriots, right, if he could capture them. So remember, the British are trying to stop the Patriots, which are colonists that are planning to rebel against King George's rule, right? They want the colonies to become an independent country. But in order for that to happen, they're going to have to fight the British and the Redcoats, okay? So the British are trying to figure out the Patriots' plans and stop them ahead of time. General Gage wrote, "Until they are sent home prisoners, I fear we shall have no peace." That's him writing about Samuel Adams and John Hancock, that he wants to have them arrested so that people will be scared and not want to stand up against the British. Finally, General Gage's plans were ready. Hoping to surprise the Americans, he gave the order to attack at night on April 18th, 1775. We just had April 18th. But the Americans were ready for him. 2 lanterns were hung in the steeple of the Old North Church to warn that the Redcoats were on the march. So they already knew that the British were coming. Why? Y'all know. This dude, Paul Revere, right? Okay. Paul Revere saw the signal hurried to the Charles River and was rowed across by a friend. When they reached the other side, Revere borrowed a horse, leaped into the saddle, and galloped off toward Concord to give the alarm. "The regulars are out," he yelled, "or the British are coming." And he raced on. The regulars were the British troops. When men heard his shout, they dressed quickly and loaded their muskets. Those are the guns, right? And these are the Minutemen, the colonists that said they would be ready to fight at any minute. Meanwhile, the redcoats were hurrying down to the docks. Boats ferried them across the Charles. At the other side, there wasn't any dock. To reach land, the redcoats had to jump out of their boats into icy water and thick mud. The first men to wade ashore just stood there, freezing and miserable, until all the rest had arrived. Finally, soaked and muddy, the redcoats marched off, shivering down the dark road to Lexington. But as they marched, they heard an unwelcome sound. Church bells were tolling, that means they were ringing, to warn all the colonists to get up. Drums were beating the alarm. General Gage's secret attack was a secret no more. Dun dun dun. Right? So the colonists were up, they were ready to fight because Paul Revere was able to ride ahead, and they knew about the British's plans. Remember, Dr. Joseph Warren told Paul Revere, "We know their plans. We've had people report. Go on ahead and warn all the colonists. Ride ahead of them quickly. It's their only chance to beat the British." So here's a picture of Paul Revere riding. Oh, look, a little doggy's following him. See, the colonists are turning on their lights. They're getting up. They're getting their muskets ready. Okay. I'll read these little captions on the side. It says, "To cross the Charles River, Paul Revere had to pass very close to the Somerset, a British man of war armed with 64 cannons. The least noise might give him away." Remember, he had to row quietly past the British ship that they, if they saw him, they could shoot him or arrest him, okay? And at the last minute, he thought of wrapping the oars, the paddles, in cloth to muffle their sound. Remember what muffle means? To make it sound quiet, to not really be able to hear what somebody's saying or a noise, right? So they wrapped the paddles in cloth to muffle their sound. There was no time to waste, so he asked a lady for her petticoat. She threw it down to him from a window, like a skirt, okay? In later years, Paul Revere would tell his grandchildren that when the petticoat fluttered into his hands, it was still warm, okay? Remember, we read about that in the other story? Okay, and then I'm going to read on this side. "The townspeople of Concord buried their guns and ammunition in haystacks and freshly plowed fields so British spies wouldn't see them." The Minutemen had buried all their weapons under hay bales. When they received warning of a British attack, they would dig them up, arm themselves, and be ready to fight. Okay, so that is our story. At the top you can see there's Paul Revere's friend with the horse ready to let Paul Revere borrow the horse, and there's Paul Revere and his friend silently rowing past the British Somerset, having to sneak by. And I think that I'm going to take a picture of these pages on my phone and upload them just so you can see them. And if you want to read along while you watch this video of me reading, that might help you. But I am going to post this on my YouTube and on Google Classroom. And then I'm going to post the practice cold read task. So after you listen to me read this, you can take the cold read task. And again, just do your very best. Let me think if there's anything else I need to tell you guys. I think that's it. Other than that, just check Google Classroom every day. I'm constantly updating the work from home slideshow with things you can do every day, and be on the lookout for more videos. The next one I'll be reading is Katie's Trunk, and then I'll be reading those Rebels, Tom and John, and some other books for you guys. So I love y'all so much, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. See y'all next time. Like, subscribe to my channel. Just kidding, y'all know I'm not a professional YouTuber, but I love y'all.